Thank you for watching this Last Mile Profits video. It looks like the Czech Sphinx will finally achieve his goal of buying IDS, which is the parent company of Royal Mail and GLS. To find out more about this very interesting scenario, carry on watching. Experience the future of convenience with modern Expo parcel lockers. Cutting-edge innovations that bring parcel delivery to a fundamentally new level. Follow the link in the description to find the best solution for your business. So Gary, the Czech Sphinx, as he's called, Daniel Kretinsky, looks like finally he may have actually made a successful bid for international distributions. What's the other systems? Was it?
International distribution solutions, I think.
Solution. But yeah. What was cool is distributions, not distribution. But anyway, but that doesn't mean so much. But if I say that actually behind that is Royal Mail and GLS, I think that says a lot more. What's your take on it, Gary?
Well, it's fascinating, of course. So he already owns more than a quarter of the company, along with a chunk of Sainsbury's, and I must say, for clarity, a chunk of Quadient, who I'm closely associated with. So he's got his fingers in a number of pies, but intriguingly, this is an attempt to buy the whole pie, not just take a stake, which has been the practice in our sector previously.
And we've got to remember that on top of Sainsbury's and Quadient, he is also a significant shareholder in PostNL, which is for Dutch, effectively the Dutch post office.
Yeah, and Casino in France, which is a big supermarket chain, and obviously the holdings in his own country back in Czechia. So you don't get to have £5 billion pounds without spreading yourself around, I guess.
Well, but let's then think, Gary, what could the consequences be? Because for me, the no-brainer discussion is around about GLS, because Royal Mail is a little bit of a problem child, or is that an English understatement?
Well, what's interesting for me is most of the obvious things that you would expect somebody in that position to do, he's given word or mention that he won't do. So interfering with the unions is going to cause problems. Royal Mail has had a very long-term policy of zero compulsory redundancies. Now, when I worked there, that made writing a business case for automation quite challenging, because you could automate something, remove the need for 100 people, but what you weren't allowed to do was remove the cost of the 100 people you no longer need. And what previously, not in the last announcement, but in the previous announcement, he said that he wouldn't be separating Royal Mail from GLS. Now, that was quietly dropped from the last announcement, but still, allegedly, that's what he intends to do. But when you've got a group that's worth, I think his current share price values it at about 3.5 billion, of which one part is worth the vast majority of that value, and another part of it is worth maybe zero or close to zero, the temptation to divide them must be quite overpowering for somebody like that, I would think.
I think that the key issue, though, is if he were to do that, and I can see a lot of merit from a pure business and economics perspective, because I think Royal Mail needs different kind of handling. And to make it clear, I think, of course, there should be a major attempt to save it, or to save as much of it as possible. But the second question is, what's right for GLS? If he were to split them, then he needs a solution in the UK, because it will be highly unlikely that Royal Mail, with its own issues and so on, will be the only choice. Well, that gets interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, you're right. There is no GLS UK, so all the parcel business in IDS UK is sat with Royal Mail and the sub-brand Parcel Force. So if you were to separate them, is there an opportunity to create GLS UK, which is, I've thought about long and hard quite a few times. And then what happens with the parcels business within Royal Mail, because they are still the largest parcel carrier in the UK, and that part of the business still does make profit. So there's lots of pieces to this jigsaw.
So Gary, so theoretically there could be three scenarios. Scenario one, Royal Mail effectively has two hats on, Royal Mail and GLS. Option one. Option two, you hive off Parcel Force, which is the parcel business, and create a GLS-type business and leave the mail and the traditional postal areas within Royal Mail. Or option three, The only thing I can think of that's big enough at the moment might be something like Every, although Advent, I think, had quite a high ticket price.
2 billion.
If the rumours are true.
2 billion they want for Every.
So I don't know. Would you hazard a guess on which might happen?
Well, the one I don't like is your second one, the middle one, because what they have done over the last few years is drag Parcelforce back into the centre. So it doesn't have its own line haul. It doesn't have its own trucks. It uses Royal Mail's line haul and distribution to achieve its services. So it's kind of like the timed service version of the Royal Mail parcel. So it's more brand and products than it is as an actual entity. It does have its own sortation hubs, one in Coventry, and the one that I helped on the business case for when I worked there up in Chorley. So it has got sortation and automated sortation, and it's also the main import route for UPU type parcels for customs clearance. So it has got sort of distinct operations. In terms of keeping Royal Mail going and then adding Every as well, like you say, that's a big thing to bite off. So I'm not convinced by that one. I think the real challenge they have is the union. The union are extremely powerful within Royal Mail, have been for literally decades. They used to be able to bring the country to its knees by holding up checks and payments and wage slip. All kinds of stuff were dependent on the mail, which isn't the case anymore. And the average pay for a postal worker within Royal Mail is much, much higher than the average pay for any of their competitors. So without dramatic investment in automation, combined with a reduced reliance on very high-cost labour, it's difficult to know how Royal Mail can be successfully turned around. So when he states, I'm not going to mess with the union, I'm not going to make compulsory redundancies, etc., he's always tying one hand behind his back before he starts.
Yeah. I think one thing that I have observed is that Daniel Kretinsky takes a long-term view. Look at the other investments, look at what he's doing, PostNL and so on. So I think it may well be that step one is let the dust settle. I agree with you, by the way, that removing Parcelforce is probably counterproductive, but it is one of the potential options. My view, let's see, my view is, and I'll take a punt on this, that they will have to find some way to create an independent GLS entity, because then it means that whatever happens at Royal Mail is compartmentalized. Hopefully they're good things, and Royal Mail finds its feet and becomes the sort of the proud entity that it was and should be. And on the other hand, GLS can live its own life, do its own thing, potentially in cooperation with Royal Mail. But let's see what I think this particular one. I know that anything on the Royal Mail does get people's interest. So please, add comments. We can't answer all of them. Typically, it's easier if you can put comments on LinkedIn because we see them more often. We try to answer some of the ones on YouTube as well. But, looking forward to lots of comments, maybe suggestions, maybe views as well, because maybe you've got a clear view of what's going to happen. So down below on LinkedIn or YouTube, add your comments. Gary, is there anything you'd like to say as a last word?
Well, the only thing that may be lurking in the background is another ex-CEO of Royal Mail is Rico Back. Rico Back was founder of GLS. Maybe there's an interest there as well. I have no idea, but that's a powerful character. That's, a very, very strong leader who built a formidable business that he sold to Royal Mail and then became CEO of Royal Mail. Maybe there's another player on the chessboard, another piece on the chessboard that we haven't discussed.
So we'll leave you, everyone, with this thought. Is this the return of Rico Back? Add your comments, please. Thanks, Gary. Thanks for watching this Last Mile Profits video. For more up-to-date last mile news and analysis, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn.